Hello everyone, and today we're going to be focusing around some kitbashes. You see, the Empire has a lot of armies of infamy, more specifically around the knightly orders. Each of the knightly orders is specialized to fight in different ways, and that's awesome, but the problem is that the kit really doesn't allow for a lot of visual representation. It's there for the Knights of the White Wolf, and it's there for the basic ones, even for the Knights Panther, but not for one of my favorite knightly orders, the Knights of Morr. So what we're going to do here is we're going to work on creating our own. So I'm going to make a unit of 8, and what we're going to do here already from the bat is getting the horses out and chopping off the barding on the behind of the horse. You might end up with some holes here, but don't you worry, a little bit of green stuff or putty will fix that up for you. I know it sounds a bit weird, but we're going to be going with a lot of visual looks to try and make these grim and dark. Remember, the Knights of Morr are very morbid. They are specialized on fighting the undead, so we're going to put a lot of death iconography here. It's a bit of a process, I'm not going to lie to you, and what you do have to focus on is making sure that you're smoothing out the back also, but that usually works after you've glued the horse together. Remember, with these knights also, the best way to go about it is to get the horses, build up the knights, and then paint them up. You want to work on this as a sub-assembly, mostly because their legs get everywhere, and you want to get the barding to look quite nice, especially when it comes to such a prestigious knightly order. For the process of green stuff and putty, all you need is a small amount, and literally just a bit of water. Just thin it out as much as you can, put it on the back, and then just with water, so you're going to want to use water here, just kind of even it out. It's going to take around 24 hours to cure properly, so it's a bit laborious, but whilst this is going on, we can start working on the knights. If you're going to be making a full-on knightly order army, you can do this in bulk with a few boxes. Really, you're only going to need around 2 or 3 boxes to get all the knights that you want, and don't you worry, I will cover the demigryphs in a future video. Because, yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to them. Plus, you're going to want some demigryph heads anyway, just to fix up some of the knights here for your unit commanders. When it comes to kit bashes like this, you're going to need some stuff from the Warriors of Chaos. You can find those bits. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But you can kind of experiment. The great thing about, like, the Empire kit, just the Empire stuff, is that you can really mix and match a lot of pieces. Until, of course, they get updated and... yeah, you know, the scale creep kicks in. Because it's happening, you know? It's very, very obvious with the Norskins. So whilst the horses are drying up, let's work on the knights. And this is going to work in a very simple way. The first thing is the legs and torsos remain the same. Same thing as some of the arms, but we'll get to that a little bit later once you start changing things around for the command squad. For the majority of the standard troops, they're going to be very much the same, barring a head change and a shield change if you have that, just to try and make this look proper. Again, the shields for the standard kit mostly focuses around the Knight Panther, and it doesn't really have that morbid look. Yes, you're going to channel your inner teenager with your angsty emo phase here. While this kit is quite old, I think it aged quite well. Sure, I'd love some updated knights in the future, maybe with some different weapon options and stuff, but for the 5 knightly orders available in terms of style, it's a great kit. All you have to do is a little bit of work, and it's a classic, man. When it comes to this, I kind of dread sometimes the updated models. I know that's probably just me, but I love the classics. Let's start jumping into the kit bashes, alright? So, on the demigryph sprue, there is a very lovely helmet that has a skull and then some plumes on it. That works quite well for your unit commander. Your champion should always look a little bit different compared to the standard troops, just for a little bit of variety there. Especially since your champion doesn't really get replaced if he's outright killed in a duel. You want him just to stand out. And the scale, thankfully, isn't too bad, despite the fact that the demigryphs came a little bit later down the line. But yeah, it works. And you're going to have a few scaling things. Again, it's what happens with these kit bashes. But you want to take advantage of that, especially as you're going to start changing stuff around for your standard knights. You see, again, the helmets don't really fit with the Knights of Morr. You want them to look edgy. You want them to look a little bit dark. So why not try something a little bit different? We're going to look towards the Warriors of Chaos box. There are some lovely heads there, which I think if you search the Knights of Morr, you'll actually see a very similar conversion, if not the same, and I'm taking a little bit of inspiration from that, just using pieces that are readily available. The heads themselves are quite large, and what you're going to have to do is cut some pieces off just to make sure that it actually fits. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit more work than the previous conversions, but it's going to be worth it. And you're going to want to do this with all the standard knights in your army, not counting your musician and your champion, and also you're going to want to put it on the banner bearer, because remember, the banner bearer is replaceable. Anytime your banner bearer dies, they pick it up again. The same thing goes with a musician, but I'm trying something very different for a lore perspective, because I feel like that's really important. If I'm going to field an army, it's going to look as lore friendly as possible, because I like that, right? I know it's not the most important thing to most people, but I feel like having an army that represents the lore very well also adds to some things. Whilst you're chopping the heads off just from the neck, it's going to take a while. Take your time. Don't rush, or you're going to cut too low and then it's going to look a bit weird. Again, putty might be needed here if you need it, but in most cases, if you've cut it well enough, it'll just like slip right in and the plastic glue will do the rest of the work. Now this is where I'm going to loosely break the law. You see, the Knights of Morr take a vow of silence. None of them really speak, but they can speak if needed, during battle commands and the rest. Rather than having a trumpeter which is making a lot of noise and will give away their position, instead I'm going to make the musician a chanter. I'm going to use the head from the Knights of the White Wolf, so yeah, he's not going to have any grim dark iconography, but the idea here is he's going to have a book. And he's going to be reading the prayers to the unit, giving them the fervor that they need to fight the denizens of Sylvania. It'll make more sense once you start seeing the kitbash come to life. But from there, what you need to do is just put on the shield arm. Everyone's going to have it. Everyone's going to have a shield. And it's just a slow, usual process once again. Wait for them to dry. Actually, in this clip, I was being quite fast and throwing them back onto the table. So what was happening is the arms were just falling off. But that arm is perfectly fine. You don't want to change anything there because the shields are going to be quite important. We're going to be going with standard lances here, by the way. I know some people have been fielding them with great weapons. I've got that plan too, but that's later down the line. I find lances to be very useful, and I have an idea for a full army for Knights of Morr. All right, let's get to work on the champion again. And the thing here is that I don't like the sword. It's all right, but I don't feel like it's got enough to actually make it look like a champion of Morr. So we're going to actually use the scythe, or the top of the scythe, from the spellcaster kit that is unfortunately no longer available, but there are loads of different scythes throughout Warhammer, if not just Warhammer Fantasy or Old World, but you can find some in the Age of Sigmar range. I planned to do this video prior, but unfortunately Games Workshop decided to remove them. And we're going to use some halberd arms here. These are spare from your basic State Trooper kit. We're not using the arm, we're actually just using the connector point, and then we're going to cut that off. But yeah, I know some people are going to get confused here. You've got loads of arms from those kits, because obviously that State Trooper kit can be spearmen or swordsmen and stuff, so don't you worry. Or if you've got extra arms from the crossbows and the guns, you can just make more handgunners. I know that's going to sound odd, but the connector points are perfect, and you'll want to use some arms from the Knights of the White Wolf just specifically for your champion, because it's the one with the hammer that he's pointing out. Just cut off the weapon, cut off then the excess from the scythe, and then glue it together. Both those pieces together alongside the arm are pretty much a perfect fit. The reason why I'm using the spellcaster one is because the spellcaster kit brings 4 wizards. You get a lot more scythes if you want to do like a full army, because I want all my champions to have that. And it's a pretty scythe, it's got like loads of vines and roses just to give it that little gothic emo look. You will need to use a scraper or a nail file just to kind of get it in there. Make sure that it's smooth. A good thing to also do is use a little bit of plastic glue and just hold them in place just so it kind of melts and smooths out too. That is always really useful to do when you're just getting in there to make 2 plastic pieces that might fit together or just about fit together, but you need a little bit more help. And just like that, the arm is done. It looks pretty damn grim, doesn't it? Now imagine that at the front of a unit, just kind of moving the arm forward. He's obviously getting there, ready to reap whatever's coming in front of him, whilst the lancers protect him. I think that looks really cool. Let's start moving on, because there's still a lot more work to go. This is actually, I think, going to be the longest video so far on the channel, which is great, because I really wanted to showcase the Knights of Morr, and I'm going to be doing more videos on knights that aren't even represented in the game just yet. Please, Games Workshop, this was cool. Maybe just put like some knightly order styles in White Dwarf, or release some for free. That would be great. All right, time to look towards the musician. Like I said, I want him to be a chanter, and I want something a little bit different here. So I'm going to use the Bretonnian kit. I have so many, as like if you've seen from the main channel, I have like 400 Bretonnian minis, and it's slowly actually increasing. I'm actually still working on my Brets. They're not really completed just yet. I know it sounds weird, but that arm, the one with the sword, looks quite nice. And the idea here is we're going to mix it up with other pieces. Again, the Spellcaster kit has a lovely book that can be attached to it, and the idea here is to remove the blade, add the book, and make it look like he's just chanting. It's going to be a bit of a process, especially if you don't like cutting into minis too much, but I do feel like it just makes it look special. I'm keeping the chain there at the moment just to see if it looks well, because the Bretonnian sword for the champion has like a chain from the sword to the hand, to the lower arm, I think, actually. But hey, you know, I'm going to try something different. And with these conversions, I'm kind of making them up on the fly with what ideas I've had on my head for a while. The planning stage here was the most laborious because I wanted to make sure that this looked decent, but I had to cut off the hand, which can be a bit of an issue sometimes, especially if you want things to scale correctly. And those caster hands are a bit skinny, but I think it fits quite well. You see, with the Knights of Morr, some of them kind of could be a bit skinny-ish, you know, keeping with the theme of, like, you know, fighting undeath, but they're looking a bit decrepit. So you've got no other flesh barring the face showing. I feel like it fits quite well. So I had to cut off the hand and the sword. I kept the chain for a while, and the idea was gluing the hand in to just, well, on, to just make sure that it fit well. And what I'm doing there instead of plastic glue is using super glue, because it's a very small connector point, and yeah, I don't have a lot of patience. I really, really don't. Especially when it comes to little pieces like that, it can just be so tiring sometimes to deal with. Super glue is your best friend there. But I think the results speak for themselves. He looks pretty damn cool. The chain wasn't too good, I think. It just doesn't look like it fits too well, but it's perfectly fine because you can do other stuff to make them look a little bit grim. So now we're going to work on the banner bearer, and now I'm going to be very honest with you. I did want to use the really cool banner that you get from the Empire Captain's kit, but the problem is that if you are going to do a full army, that can get kind of expensive. Bit websites are there, but finding that bit can be quite difficult because a lot of people do like that banner, and it is the perfect one to use for your Empire. So I'm going to use the standard one, but I'm going to change some things around just to make sure that it fits with the theme more than anything else. So the usual thing, pick it up and just shave it down to where you need to. And then what I'm going to use is a piece from the Bretonnian kit, actually. So on the Men-at-Arms, there is that little book that goes on the top of the banner when you're using the monks. And I think it fits quite well. Now, what you have to do is actually glue it the wrong way around, which is annoying. But afterwards, you're just going to cut it off, then replace it, and perfect. It's actually going to fit really well. While some people might say, well, that's the lady iconography, and I understand that, it kind of fits because you don't really see that much detail on that bit. So it could just be, you know, a shade of Morr or a priestess of Morr. The idea there is just to have that kind of gothic feel, especially since you've got little candles and stuff. I think it fits in really well. There might be other choices, and a friend did actually suggest using some undead parts, but the idea there is just to keep it not too on the pathway of undead, because there's going to be a lot of skulls coming in a second. Okay, the command squad is done. I think they look pretty cool. There's still more things that need to happen, but we're going to wait now until tomorrow because I need the green stuff to dry just so the units can start looking a little bit better. So now that we're going to be here for tomorrow, there's a few things that need to be done, right? The green stuff is dry. I made sure to check on everything. Yes, I am that good. I can teleport into the future. And just a quick heads up here, just if in case some areas might not be so smooth, hit it with a file, hit it maybe with a scalpel, and you're pretty much good there. Now what we're going to do is start putting some stuff on the barding, right? So the basic Empire kit has access to a bunch of skulls, either with arrows or with swords crossed on them. That looks quite cool. The same thing with the Spellcaster kit. There is skulls with some candles on them. You want skulls kind of lining around the model, if possible, just to kind of give it that grimdark feel. And so now begins the process of just adding it in, and yeah, just hit it with some super glue. Remember the green stuff, plastic glue will not work there because it's not really plastic. And anyway, the super glue acts as a better binder. The main thing here is just change it around, add some different ones to the horses, and just make it look a little bit darker. And yes, I have no problem admitting that my fingers were getting stuck. You can use tweezers here, or you can just kind of brute force it, as long as you don't let the glue go all over the place, because you don't want that damage there. But sometimes you might want it. It can actually look fairly decent. The main process here is really, really quick, so it works out very well. And I think it already starts to make the units look a little bit better, rank up the horses. I'm only doing 8, by the way, because I'm doing 2 ranks of 4, which is more or less how I'm running these units when it comes to my knightly orders. I know some people like it larger, some people like it smaller, but the idea there is to have multiple units across the field with some characters kind of supporting them too. Okay, so this part is going to be harder to replicate. Like I said, I don't like the shields, but I'm a pack rat, and these are sprues that I had from probably 1998. Yeah, I kept a lot of my Warhammer, which I'm going to do a restoration project in a series of videos at some point. These have skulls on them. I feel like they fit a lot better. Maybe you can find some different styles, similar styles, use some from the Undead kits, eBay, or if you've got a 3D printer, because you want more skull iconography as much as you possibly can. I felt like these shields fit perfect, and they are pretty much the same size, more or less, as the current kit. Again, the scale creep didn't really start happening until a little bit later. I mean, there was during editions, but it wasn't as noticeable as it is nowadays, I think. The last thing to do is to add a few more pieces here and there, like some open books, or maybe even some of the small pieces of armaments that you can find on the Bretonnian kit, if you have a Bretonnian kit, just to kind of give it a little bit more character. The idea here is just to add as much as possible so they don't look like the generic knights. It's a bit hard to do because obviously if you've seen other kitbashes, they've used different heads, or maybe they use the Chaos Knight horses. I wanted to keep it as close to you can replicate this as possible. I found some stuff from the artillery kit, like some shovels, and the idea there was just to have a shovel there. You know, the Knights of Morr, they're killing the undead, sanctifying some bones, and then throwing them away so that the necromancers can't really bring them back. This is something really important here. I'll be adding little bits and bobs just to kind of add to there. I wanted to add in some extras like sword sheaths and so on, but I feel like it was being a bit too extra. This was really fun to do, I'm not gonna lie, because this has been on my bucket list for a fair amount of time now. So I'm really glad that I finally decided, screw it, I'm gonna make the Knights of Morr. And I can't wait to do the others. I've got a really cool plan for the Knights of the Everlasting Light. It's just going to take a little bit of time just to source some pieces that I want from a few specific kits. But here we are with the Knights of Morr done. There'll be more close-up shots now, so don't you worry about that. I am pretty happy. There's only 6 here. There's actually 8. It's just that this movement tray was the best way that I could have brought them down with them not exploding, which is a general fear that I have, especially when the cat's running around. I'm looking forward to painting these. There's going to be a video. There is going to be a video on that, don't you worry. Same thing as the banner bearer that I converted prior. It's just going to take a while because there's a few things that I've got planned. You guys have no idea how large my video idea list is. So I'm really, really excited that I've started doing this like secondary channel just to kind of get things going. It's allowed for the creativity to come out, which I think is why I'm like jumping back into like Total War videos and stuff. I needed something to do. I needed something just to kind of bring something else out of me, and it's also giving me a reason just to get my models done, right? I did say that my ultimate goal for the old worlds was to have 1,000,000 points, and yeah, I'm slowly getting there. You know, I'm doing about a box every 2 days or something in terms of painting, depending on obviously the size of the box. And I wish I could record all of that, but it takes longer. Interestingly enough, it takes longer to paint stuff when you're recording, because obviously you got to make sure that the thing's on frame and you know everything's looking decent. Where what I'm doing with this stuff is, say for example, I've painted up those orcs, so now I'm bulk painting orcs again because there is no need to do another video on orcs. I've got a video on demonettes coming likely next week, and then I'm just going to get rid of the 7 boxes of demonettes that I have waiting. It's definitely giving me incentive to finally get rid of that pile of shame that has been ever growing since the old world released. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. And yeah, subscribe if you're new. There's going to be a lot of videos coming. Have a good one, guys. Bye.